Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the Sun's upcoming conjunction with Neptune in the late degrees of Pisces. And in order to do that, I'm going to read a passage from Liz Greene's book, The Astrological Neptune and the Quest for Redemption. In my opinion, this is probably one of the better books that's ever been written on the subject of Neptune. It is absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to read you a portion of the text where she writes about the Sun-Neptune contact, either natally or by transit. And I'm going to pause as we go and offer you my own reflections and observations and commentary from my own practice and observing this transit or natal placement at work in people's lives. And this should, I hope, prepare us for engaging with the archetype over the weekend. So that is our goal for today. Before we get into it, do something special with the like button. You are free to be as creative as you'd like to be. And if you care to share how you engaged with the like button, we have a rich comment section that is now actively telling us about the myriad number of ways that you have been engaging with the like button. And you can share your comments, of course, and if you would like, there's a transcript of any of my daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com. If you go over there right now, speaking of Neptune, last night we had a webinar on Neptune in love. If you go to the events page, click on live talks, you will see that under the live talk page, Neptune in love is right there. And you'll see after the talk is over, I'm recording this just previous to it, but after the talk is over, you'll see the recorded talk version for sale. So if you missed it, you can still sign up and get a copy. We talked about Neptune in love and relationships in this talk from the standpoint of natal placements or transits, and really just trying to understand the outer planets and the way that they speak to us in love, sex, and relationships. So Pluto and Neptune we have now covered. You can get the recording of either of those on the live talks page, or you can go to the shop where we have a lot of different things that are there for sale, including some of the previous masterclass series that we've done, my book that's being released one chapter at a time through audio and text. So Uranus in Love is next month, and I hope to see you guys at that one. The other thing that I am promoting right now is Ashley's Herbal Apprenticeship Program. You can learn more about it by going to skyhouseherbs.com. I'm very happy to be supporting my wife in the return to teaching herbal medicine, which she did for many, many years prior to a couple of years ago. She took a little bit of a break, and now she's back. So it's very good to have her back. There's like nothing better than, I don't know if you guys are married or not, but when your spouse is in their purpose, right? She's so happy that she's teaching herbs again, and I'm so happy for her. Anyway, her herbal apprenticeship program starts on April 24th, and you can learn more about the program on the page under the course tab. And there are flexible pricing options that you can find too. We have need-based tuition for this program as well. And at the end of today's video, if you stick around, you'll see an interview that I did with Ashley talking about the apprenticeship program, if you care to stick around and learn more about it. So, all right, now that we've gone through some announcements, and one more thing I should mention is that our spring speaker series is coming up here at the end of March. Those are all free. If you go to the live talks page, or if you go to the events page, you'll see speaker series. Click on that. All three of those talks coming up at the end of the month are completely free and open to the public. That is something that we provide thanks to your support through the Kickstarter. So check those out too. There's some good speakers coming up here at the end of the month. Okay. All right. Now, what I want to talk about today is the upcoming conjunction of the Sun and Neptune. And I titled this talk, Why the Sun Conjoining Neptune is So Enchanting. Because it is. It's one of the more magical, mystical, enchanting transits that we see. And we do see it throughout the year as the Sun moves through the zodiac and Neptune moves very slowly. You're going to see the conjunction, the square, the trine, the sextile, the opposition, the closing square. It's not like something we never see. But when it comes around, it's easy to forget how magical the transit really is. So that's what we're going to refresh ourselves on today with this passage from Liz Greene. Now, when you see the Sun here, this is today, Friday, March 15th, we're going to take this forward, and voila, they conjoin by early Sunday morning, March 17th. So you spread this out, give it a few days, and you've got about yesterday, Thursday, March 14th, and then we'll give them about 3 degrees of separation to about Wednesday, March 20th. But you'll really notice it Saturday and Sunday this weekend, the 16th and 17th of March. So, on that note, they are in the double bodied water sign of Pisces. In modern astrology, where outer planets have been assigned rulerships, not a convention that I follow, but for those who do, Neptune is, of course, quite at home in Pisces. And so that's an interesting little tidbit because um, the watery sign of Pisces is sometimes associated with Neptune in our minds in modern astrology. Anyway, so what I want to do now, I'm going to read. It's reading hour. I'm going to read you a passage on Neptune and the Sun that made such an impact on me that I revisit this probably 10 to 15 times a year in my own study and practice. And I've actually had clients come in where if they're going through a Neptune Sun transit to their birth chart, Neptune transiting the Sun in their birth chart, I will often share a little excerpt from this passage because I think it's so profound. Now, this is in about 3 to 3.5 pages, and I'm going to pause as we go to offer you my own little commentary. But Liz Greene says it better than I ever could, so we'll mostly defer to her, but I'm going to add in some of my own thoughts here. She starts off, when Neptune is connected with the Sun, the need for individual self-expression and the longing for the formlessness of pre-birth are forced into dialogue. The subject of the conversation, conscious or unconscious, is the purpose of one's life. So for thousands of years, the Sun has been associated with that sense of purpose that gives our life something like a narrative arc. Okay, so in modern astrology, we often say, "What's your sun sign?" Right? As in, what's your sign? For ancient astrologers, the rising sign and the ruling planets and the planets in the first house, sometimes the moon, were more indicative of character and temperament and psychology, whereas the Sun was really describing something like the archetypal domain of life that defines one's sense of purpose. Okay, so it's really important to make that distinction because Liz Greene makes the similar distinction. Insofar as our ego is rooted in some sense of purpose, there is definitely a connection with our character, but it's important to think of the Sun as a kind of narrative arc. The Sun and Neptune are uneasy bedfellows, and it generally takes at least until the time of the first Saturn return for the individual to begin to fathom how to live with this disturbing cohabitation. Now, she's speaking there about people who have it natally. That it is possible is suggested by the Greeks, who coupled the two gods in their joint shrine at Delphi, presenting the worshiper with an alternating rhythm of solar clarity and chthonic ecstasy, each with its own part of the year set aside for the appropriate rituals. Now, that's another little important tidbit because when she mentions that there is a kind of unification between these two gods in the Greek imagination, it's important to understand what they each represented and how such a synthesis of the two gods is possible. So, presenting the worshiper with an alternating rhythm of solar clarity and chthonic ecstasy. One of the words, the word chthonic, a simple way of putting it is that it means that it's more like ocean and earth, and with the word chthonic, you often get the feeling of something very earthy and almost like, I would use the word pagan in a very respectful way, even in an honoring way, like a rich pagan kind of feeling, but it's earthy and sensual, and it's a little chaotic and magical. The chthonic, the solar clarity is more like the sense of enlightenment that you get sitting on a rock in a loincloth, like just meditating and connecting with the transcendental ground of being. Right? That's the solar clarity. Well, that's what makes the pairing of the two a little bit difficult, is that you have these two gods, one that represents going down and in, and the other one that represents going up and out. In fact, the sign of Pisces connects the two fish whose tails are tied together in some images, with the one fish going upward and eastward, there's the solar clarity, and the other one going downward and westward, down toward the earth, which is the chthonic ecstasy. So that duality is actually present in Pisces, which is why we get sometimes, like, what is the image, for example, of trying to escape the pain of the world through drugs? it's a complicated image, not just one that we can write off by saying, oh, that's an addict or something. Well, there's certainly addiction there, right? And that can be a disease and a real problem. But the desire to transcend the world, to transcend pain and suffering, is very solar, to go up to the top of the mountain. Whereas the use of something that's very worldly, that eventually entangles you more deeply in the world, in the body, in addiction, to a material substance that also offers a kind of sensual, embodied, but temporary high. That's the chthonic ecstasy, a shadow of the chthonic ecstasy. So drug addiction is a complicated image that is actually at the heart of some of the archetype of Pisces as a sign. So anyway, but that solar clarity and chthonic ecstasy, this is why we see Neptune as not badly placed in the sign of Pisces as an archetypal association. Because the sun symbolizes those values and goals which develop at midlife, forming the bedrock of an individual's sense of personal destiny, the Sun-Neptune individual needs to include the, the Neptunian world in his or her chosen path in life. Otherwise, nagging discontent, disillusionment, and apathy may undermine everything one tries to do. So when the Sun-Neptune comes through, there is this nagging sense, if your life is not inclusive of something transcendental, otherworldly, ecstatic, and infused with a sense of higher or transcendental ideal, an ideal that gives you purpose and meaning, there'll be this nagging sense of discontentment, disillusionment, or boredom that can kind of surface. And that's something to watch for this weekend, too. All the aspects, hard and soft, require some expression of the pre-birth realm through an individually developed medium, preferably but not necessarily one which can be pursued as a vocation or profession. Including the Neptunian world might be simple. All one has to do, apparently, is think transcendent thoughts. But the sun is a dynamic force which seeks to express and actualize. It must radiate out into life and make some impact, however small, in the outer world. If the person is to avoid the illusory comfort of an escapist spirituality, he or she must find a vehicle that offers an outlet for Neptune's sensual and emotional theatricality, as well as its longing for fusion with the divine. Most importantly, this vehicle must be individual. Doctrines, however beautiful and worthwhile they might seem, are not individual unless they are processed through one's own experience and values. So you can't sign up for transcendental meditation and think that that's enough. I love TM, but you can't sign up for a yoga program or an astrology program or any kind of program and think that that's enough. There's a way in which the Sun-Neptune requires that the transcendental or spiritual or imaginative or artistic impulses be channeled through the very essence of your being, that it be so personal, and that it be that purpose comes through a marriage of something transcendental, ideal, which maybe has religious and spiritual themes or elements. It's not like you can't go to yoga or you can't learn astrology or you can't meditate or something to get there, but it has to be personal. And that's the sense that many Sun-Neptune transits will result in a person feeling like they found something otherworldly, but in the end, the glitter wears off because there was something about it that left out the individual uniqueness of the soul, the character. And that's, by the way, that is not so different from saying that it leaves out the chthonic, the realm of the earth, because the soul, as opposed to the spirit, a kind of dyad of our being, the spirit connects with the transcendent, but the soul is rich and deep and sort of earthly. It is bound up in idiosyncrasies and uniqueness, and so you can't, like, the call for something greater, if it eliminates individuality, which often these various spiritual programs they will sort of erase individuality, and you'll just be eye gazing into infinity with people. it was it was always something that annoyed me about the New Age world when I was in it more intensely. Oh my God. All right. Anyway, you need individuality. So if the person is to avoid the illusory comfort of an escapist spirituality, you must find a vehicle that offers an outlet for Neptune's sensual, emotional, spiritual theatricality. It's longing for fusion with divine, but it has to be individual. It's very important, right? This is why the same exact transit of Sun-Neptune will often be associated with people when they become disillusioned or disappointed with or disenchanted with something in their life that maybe offers something, something that you've bought into or that you've become deeply identified with, but that has also sort of diminished your sense of individuality. You'll start recognizing it. Like, whoa. Sun-Neptune may signify the musician, the actor, the composer, the playwright, the writer of poetry and fiction, the painter, the filmmaker, the photographer, the astrologer, the experimental scientist who relies on inspiration as well as empirical research, or the therapist, counselor, or teacher who works with the products of imagination in order to heal. Neptune may also feel at home nurturing or redeeming an environment, which echoes Eden. Neptune's empathy with human suffering and longing marks the Sun-Neptune's individual's creative endeavors with a quality of universality. He or she can communicate the language everyone understands. These forms of expression are solar as well as oceanic. They have body, although they are fluid. They necessitate conscious effort, dedication, individual choice, sensual contact and imagery, and a subtle interrelationship with the rest of life. Neptune makes the sun ego porous, open to the waters of the unseen world. But the unseen is not just transcendent light, it is also primal darkness. If one tries to befriend the little fish without the big one, the darkness may rise up through other channels: alcohol, drug addiction, compulsive eating disorders, sexual difficulty, disabling or disintegrating mental or physical illness, or it may be experienced through projection, and by some blackly humorous quirk of fate, one's partner or child will embody all the murky or Neptunian elements that one most strongly repudiates within oneself. So here she's basically saying that there's all of these beautiful Sun-Neptune endeavors that you'll find are common in the charts of people with Sun-Neptune, or during Sun-Neptune transits, you'll see them manifest. The counselor, the healer, the artist, all of these things that are so beautiful. They're truly like so inspiring. Sun-Neptune is lovely in that respect. However, the solar clarity without the chthonic ecstasy, which the earth is a complicated place. It's a place of desire and fear and competition and hostility and pain and impermanence and suffering, as well as tremendous beauty, right? And compassion and forgiveness. So, but the earth, you cannot you cannot paint a rosy picture of the earth and try to cast it all in golden light. If you do that, then the repression of the chthonic, of the complicated realm of the Sun-Neptune, which involves the urges and impulses of the of nature, of the jungle of life. If you try to eliminate those, they will come up in some way. And they will often come up as, oh, I'm in a religious group, but the guru is molesting me. I mean, this is real. That sounds terrible, but this is real Sun-Neptune talk here. You will find that to the extent that your spirituality is glazed over, your ego has become identified with Neptune to the extent that I'm so spiritual, I'm a healer, nothing is wrong here, there's no complications. Or you look at the complications of the world and you see them as stains or sinful or bad, or there's a judgment about them, to the extent that you repudiate those things rather than developing the complex relationship that's needed with them. It's a complex relation. It's like what's your relationship status with the chthonic world of Earth? It's complicated, right? That's the status. If you leave that out, the Sun-Neptune person like Pentheus may initially succeed in banning the chthonic, but may end up marrying a manic depressive, hysteric, and alcoholic, giving birth to a little Dionysus who becomes a drug addict when he grows up. Better to develop a difficult, complicated appreciation for the chthonic realm than try to repudiate it. The individual with Sun-Neptune longs to experience being taken out of himself or herself through a voluntary act of submission to something greater or higher. So she goes on. I'm going to skip the next part a little bit here. If the sun is swamped, because she goes on for a little bit about stuff that's not super relevant for us. If the sun is swamped, then individuality can only make itself known through covert channels, symptoms which justify one's unconscious demand to be noticed or a relationship pattern in which one's specialness is measured by the degree of victimization suffered at the hands of a selfish and domineering partner, child, parent, or friend. So the extent to which we identify with saving or helping people, eventually with Sun-Neptune, it comes around to bite us, because there'll be a way in which we're constantly diminishing our own value or worth. And then the Sun-Neptune becomes all about needing to set boundaries. If you can follow that. That's one great Sun-Neptune pattern. If Neptune is suppressed, symptoms reflecting one's own helplessness and dependency may appear, or one may be repeatedly drawn to those who are themselves helpless and victimized, and one may experience an intolerable longing for something unknown and unseen, a longing for dissolution which can only be satisfied by an act of what older astrology textbooks call self-undoing. See, if we're like repressing Neptune, then often Sun-Neptune will come up as overwhelm, confusion, feeling lost, feeling in need of help, feeling helpless, needing to rely on the forgiveness, charity, compassion of other people, because we've been so self-centered and so self-reliant that we have forgot that we are a dependent being connected with the web of being. And that's a Sun-Neptune thing as well. It can be very healing. The personal father. Now she goes on to talk about the father figure, which is also important for Neptune's Sun. The personal father melded with the archetypal father is a symbol for every child's sense of confidence and creative power. This is why we expect so much from our fathers, who will inevitably get it wrong in one way or another because they are mortal. It is also why the sun in the horoscope seems to personify what has been inherited from the father as part of the raw material of one's own individual destiny. Notice she says destiny, not character. The mythic hero's quest is invariably the externalization of an attribute embodied by his parent god. Any planet aspecting the sun points to a particular facet of the father archetype, which it is the individual's task to confront and express as creatively as possible. The Neptunian father is the dismembered Orpheus or the wounded Grail King, rendered impotent by life's harshness or by his own burden of human sin. The internalized father figure provides the rudiments of a sense of purpose, just as the internalized mother provides the rudiments of an instinctive trust in life. The Neptunian father is a spirit who has not embodied himself in life, and his child is left to find his or her own model for confident living. It is not surprising that many Sun-Neptune individuals take a long time to do so. Now, she's talking about dad karma. There's also something to be said about Sun-Neptune contacts with fathers who are incredibly compassionate or spiritual or imaginative. So it's not all bad. But she's certainly talking about the shadows to watch for. There are often considerable creative potentials inherited from the father. I have met many Sun-Neptune people whose fathers were talented actors, musicians, writers, and painters, although frequently these fathers could not make their talents work in outer life, or abandon their gifts, or never express them at all once they embarked upon marriage and fatherhood. The individual with Sun-Neptune may pay for this dreamer father with a gnawing internal sense of impotence. Sooner or later, they will have to develop self-confidence from scratch, because the father perhaps did not offer a strong enough example. So again, like she's talking about how the Sun-Neptune contacts in a natal chart can activate various shadows or challenges that arise from the connection to the patterns in one's father. But I will add, as someone who's seen tons of charts and people with Sun-Neptune over time, in many cases, Sun-Neptune contacts will show people whose fathers offered some very ideal sense of romantic, artistic, imaginative, spiritual sensibilities, and that will serve as a source of inspiration for the individual. And at the same time, sometimes there is a way in which Sun-Neptune contacts will suggest that you need to individuate and figure out who you are relative to this very beautiful and inspiring image that the father created. So it's not always that the father is just a kind of failure, imaginative, spiritual, artistic, kind of like talented, but maybe unrealized or something, which is definitely a shadow, but also that the Sun-Neptune is such a strong example at times that it's hard to differentiate yourself and figure out who you're going to be. As someone with some Neptune contacts in my chart, I was, I grew up, for example, with a father who was in many ways, a really great example of a spiritual figure, and figuring out how I wanted to take from that, but create my own thing has been that's been a real source of challenge at times. That's just as common as the idea that there's some, like your dad's like Sun-Neptune, your dad's an alcoholic, or Sun-Neptune, your dad's a inspired but not able to translate his gifts into the real world or something, which are shadows. But Liz Greene, I don't think, goes far enough to talk about the positive ways in which Sun-Neptune can leave this inspiring mark on a person. And it's not just father either. Sun-Neptune comes about in the sky like it is this weekend at any point when there are people who are really inspiring as examples of what we can be, or examples of a life filled with purpose that we admire, that we want to take after. And yet the challenge may be there to define for ourselves what that looks like, because Sun-Neptune, again, will require that anything ideal, transcendental, inspired, mystical, imaginative still has to be personal. We can't just copy something. We have to realize what our own source of creative inspiration looks like. So anyway, that is it. I wanted to just share a few little parts from that excerpt. I highly recommend you guys check this book out if you want to read a fantastic book about Neptune. The Astrological Neptune and the Quest for Redemption by Liz Greene is one of my all-time favorite books on Neptune. The entire Center for Psychological Astrology series, the CPA series, is really good, including that book. So maybe you guys can check that out. That is it for today. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I would love to hear your stories. If you have a story to share, use the hashtag grabbed, or email us your story, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. Tell us how the Sun and Neptune showed up in your life this weekend. And don't forget that you can get the replay on nightlightastrology.com of the Neptune in Love talk that we did last night. And you can also hop over to skyhouseherbs.com to learn more about Ashley's apprenticeship after I sign off. You can stick around if you'd like to hear the interview that I did with Ashley about her upcoming herbal apprenticeship program. That is it for today. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you again next week. Bye. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for sticking around. I'm really happy to be joined by my wife, Ashley, who is an herbalist. Hi, Ashley.
Hey.
And yeah, I'm really excited to be helping Ashley promote her upcoming program, which is something that you actually began teaching many years ago, this herbal apprenticeship program. I think it was 2011 or 12 that it got started, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been over 10 years I've been offering this course, and yeah, it's my favorite thing to teach.
Yeah. And just to be clear, because some people on my channel, most people know you because you pop on here or there. We talk about herbs and astrology. There's an attraction in our marriage and an attraction in the subject matter that is old. Like, we've been together for 14 years in our relationship going on, and we've always had a fascination with each other's areas of expertise, and we've done lots of things to marry them together over the years, in addition to literally getting married. And and actually, herbalists and astrologers have married the subjects of herbs and planets together for thousands of years as well. Now, your program is focused on herbalism. It's not an astrology course, but there is certainly a lot of overlap in terms of the energetics and the spiritual approach to herbalism that you take. And so I was hoping that we could start off just by telling people a little bit about the program. You're coming to this after taking a little bit of time on maternity leave. Our kids were not yet in school. Now they are. You're coming back to work. This is really exciting. The new program launches at the end of April. I'm going to put it up on the screen so people can see it. You can find it at skyhouseherbs.com. Enrollment is open now. The course begins. You go under Courses, Herbal Foundations Apprenticeship at the end of April. Tell us about it.
Well, this course, I guess my goal in redesigning the apprenticeship course that I've been teaching for 10 years is to make it even more personal and to allow people to study the material, digest it at their own pace. So what it's going to be is a combination of kind of three main parts. The first one is the recorded material. So there's going to be modules that will be released, and people can listen to them as they have time. The second part are live classes, where we will meet live on Zoom and talk about the module, I'll answer questions, I'll give even more information about it. And then the third part is the sacred plant pairings. And so I've always taught the herbal portion, like the plant diets, one at a time, but this year I'm going to do it in pairs, because I think you can learn a lot by comparing and contrasting herbs. So for every module, you'll have 2 herbs to study, and you'll get a little cheat sheet about them before you start the module. And then you'll have an opportunity to work with those 2 plants and blend them and keep them separate and just really work with them closely. Because my goal is that I want people to be able to find information that they can really use in their own lives, maybe with clients, whether they have a professional herbal practice or maybe they're a therapist in a different field, that they'll know these plants so that they can work with them really comfortably.
I love the different modules that you have just so we can preview them for people. Module 1 is Vitalism and the Heart of Herbalism. Module 2, Building Your Home Apothecary. They're so diverse. I love Module 3 is my favorite, Plant Spirit Medicine. Energetics and chemistry. You have such a holistic approach. It's what I've always loved about your teaching. You'll teach about the doctrine of signatures. You'll talk to people about how to communicate with plants, how to think of them as teachers that are living beings, that have personalities, that aren't just, phytochemistry or whatever. But you will also teach phytochemistry. And I think that you have this really well-rounded way of helping people be intelligent about the plants, about the body, about the systems of the body, but also not afraid to use energetic systems, not afraid to take something from the kinds of energetics that ancient mystics were working with, whether that's the elements or whether that's, some of the overlay with things like Ayurveda,
Yeah.
Chinese medicine. You take what's useful on a symbolic and energetic plane and on a personal connection level with the plants, and you marry it to really smart scientific research. I think that's rare. You don't see that a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, to me, it's all language. They're just different languages that we talk about the same thing. And I think the more diverse our languages as herbalists, the more we can reach more people. And that's kind of my goal. Like, I want everyone to be able to identify plants, use plants. So we need to diversify the languages we speak so we can talk with our physicians, so we can talk with a therapist, we can talk with a mystic, right? We can talk with children. And we have a language that everyone can use.
You talk in the program, in your modules, you have stuff on digestive and gut health. You have stuff on detoxification, colds and flus, and dealing with virus seasons. You talk about tissue states, and you're talking about how to give things to your kids for helping them maybe at times even relax before bed at night. We use a lot of different things with our kids. I love this that you have called this a I'm going to find the phrase where you use, and I'm going to mess it up. A community herbalist. What is a community herbalist, so that people can understand that definition? Because sometimes people might look at a course like this and think, gosh, unless I go to an accredited university for 8 years and learn all about chemistry, I have no right or business suggesting herbs to people or using herbs. That's just not true. And that's not the history of how folk herbal medicine has been used or taught. So what do you mean when you say community herbalist?
I think you said it perfectly. This is the people's medicine, and our grandmothers and great grandparents used plants as medicine. There's nothing actually that hard about the practice of herbal medicine. It's just getting to know the plants and getting to know the times when they're most useful. I really envision that this course, people can take it and, yes, use it for themselves, number one, because I think a lot changes when we have the personal experience, and then using it in your family, whether that's just, maybe making a tea for your dog, or, if you have kids, or maybe you just have a partner, maybe you have plants you can use, and we'll talk about taking care of a garden, but using it for yourself, for whoever's immediately around you, and then taking it beyond that, because it's likely that at some point you're going to be talking with someone. They're going to say, oh, I've got this digestion thing and I've tried this and this. And they might say, hey, you're studying herbs. Is there anything that you would recommend? And you know what? You'll probably have a few ideas. And that, you never know how one way that you help someone out there in the world might trickle and then help others and more people. So I think through the self-knowledge and studying this knowledge in your own body, it'll naturally, it's like, impossible for it not to spread out and start to affect the broader community.
Yeah, I think that's really important. This is also for that reason, because we have a vision. I mean, you guys know through my Kickstarter, you guys helped us build a community herbal medicine garden that Ashley's been hosting free and donation-based events out of, that the donations go right back into the garden and just growing the medicine that we then find ways of harvesting and giving to other people, or letting other people come and harvest. We have a vision, and we always have, back to the days when we had our yoga studio in Maryland. We have always had a vision of making this sacred knowledge accessible to people. And that is both there in this program in terms of the way you're framing what it means to be an herbalist. It might mean that you're a professional and you see clients, and you could continue beyond this program developing the skills to do that. This would certainly set you up for success. You could also go forward and be someone who uses what you know with friends and family and yourself. And that's an incredible set of tools to have. The program's also very accessible from both a programming standpoint and a price standpoint. I'm going to take you back over and show everybody the programs. The modules are pre-recorded, but then you meet outside of the modules for discussion, community, Q&A, and sort of development and integration. So people can attend those live. If they miss those integration sessions, they can also watch the replays of those. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
anyone could take this at their own rate, as slowly or as quickly as you wanted to, really soak it in, or blaze through it. And, and then we can certainly, beyond this program, as Ashley perhaps makes more advanced programs available as she's easing back in out of maternity leave, can help you with further development or recommend you to many other wonderful programs where you could continue your studies. We want this to be accessible. We want community herbalism to be, as simple as being able to show a friend a couple of yoga stretches. We should be able to show each other herbs, and just, hey, this is a helpful herb to use. Also, accessibility price-wise, we have an early bird enrollment, and we have standard enrollment. And then we have tuition level 1 assistance and tuition assistance level 2, which break out the affordable tuition into different levels of affordability. And you can kind of identify where you're at if you're someone who wants to take this program, but needs to work within your means and not hurt yourself doing it. And then for those who can pay, we ask that you use standard or early bird enrollment. And that's the same thing I do for all my astrology programs. So we try to keep it super, super accessible. The Herbal Apprenticeship program starts April 24th. I know Ashley's super excited to be getting back into teaching too. I also would like to offer Ashley just a chance to tell everyone a little bit about, before we end here this interview, tell everyone maybe a little bit about your own background, who you studied with, what your influences are, and just anything else you want to say before we cap it off.
Ooh, okay. Well, I think, I started off as a kid playing in the woods, mixing perfumes and potions. And then I went on to study environmental science, where I studied organic chemistry and restoring native wetlands. And really, from an environmental perspective, that's how I got into herbalism. And then after, I realized, after working on the restoration piece and joining a lot of earth advocacy groups, that the problem's not with the earth, but with the people not understanding the value of the earth. So then I started going into holistic medicine. I graduated from University of North Carolina, Asheville, with a degree in interdisciplinary studies. And I went on to get my that was my undergrad. And then I got my master's from the Maryland University of Integrative Health. It was then called Thai Sophia. But my teachers there, I had such a great blend of teachers, really scientific minds, like Simon Mills from the UK, and Kevin Spellman, who is like a chemistry genius, who's also an Ayurvedic practitioner, who studied with Dr. Vasant Lad. Matthew Prisco, medicine maker from Galen's Way out in California. So I had a really wonderful, diverse variety of teachers in that 3-year full-time master's level program. And then after that, I went on to study with Matthew Wood pretty intensively, because I liked his energetics. I liked the way he spoke about the plants and his personal experience working with low dose, drop dose medicine. And he has had amazing he's done such amazing work herbally with just using that method. And gosh, I could, I've got a lot of herbalists in my
David
basket.
Duke comes to mind. And
Jim Duke.
Or Jim Duke, sorry, my bad.
Jim Duke, Margie Flint, Rosemary Gladstar is like, I've only done one herb walk with her, but it was amazing. So, I have shelves of herbal books and people who I just adore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel really grateful that I've had that blend of the science and the energetic herbalism and the traditional herbalist perspective as well. And I try my best to blend them together and to give everyone a really diverse yet integrated herbal study experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You get that. That is exactly what you'll get if you sign up for Ashley's program, which I encourage you to do. If this is the kind of thing that interests you, you won't regret it. It's a fantastic course with someone I absolutely love, obviously, but also like a really, truly fantastic human being and teacher of
Oh,
plant medicine.
thank
And
you.
if you want to learn more about her, see her work, get to know her a little bit, check out her YouTube channel, Skyhouse Herbs, where she publishes weekly on plant medicine, plant energetics, and also on Instagram, which is Skyhouse Herbs. So the apprenticeship program starts April 24th. I wanted to get Ashley on, brag about her program, turn you guys on to it. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'm sure that we're going to see some people from the Nightlight astrology world getting introduced to you and all of your magic.
I would love that. Thank you.
All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.